Good morning, all. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit. I keep getting a little bit behind here. Let me share my screen. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that should work. Just double checking. You're on a slight delay to me, so. There we go. Okay. How is everybody doing this morning? Seeing a drift to the downside with a FTSE. Good morning, Dennis. Morning, John. We're seeing a drift to the downside with a FTSE, and I'd quite like to play it. Now, well, let's see if we can get on this. What do I need to do here? There's something I need to do. Oh, okay, mate. You have to tell me about that. Good morning, Alan. Where are we at? What was I just about to do? I forget. No, it's gone. Okay, so we are looking for a FTSE 100 short here. We can see that there is this daily pivot in the way. So I don't have a decent price point as yet, but I quite like this this FTSE. If it pops up a little bit this in the morning, then I'll probably take it around about there. Let's make sure we got enough going on here. Just making sure I'm getting ready. There does seem to be a few issues out there. Now, we had some pretty good numbers yesterday. Gosh, yesterday was tough. I had a trade on long after the ISM numbers. I had to take it off, and I had to re-enter to make some of the money back again, which was tricky yesterday, but not too bad in the end. But it didn't go anywhere near where I thought it would go. Now, I am looking for slightly higher here with a FTSE before I get an entry. Let me just do this. So it's a bit easier to see. Right, so I'm going to be entering the FTSE, but I'm going to need that up there. I might just let the first 15 minutes pass here. I'd quite like it just to come up and retest this level along here, maybe there, and just see what this looks like. So this is the price point. 62.66 is the price point I'd like to short from. Definitely some weakness is ensuing today with the global stock market. But we do have pivots kind of stacked up in areas, and looks like that number's reacting quite nicely there. So certainly looks like we should be after the shorts here. Just going to bring in the barometers. What we got? Log in here. I'll be with you imminently. I'm just checking out whether I've got a trade on here or not. Oh yeah, definitely after the short by the looks of things this morning. Okay, so we want the shorts here. This is the price point that's been rejected. So I'm going to put in at 62.64. See if we get one more pop to the upside to give us an opportunity here. 62.64. We might have to go one below that. Let's put it at 62.62. 6262 for the shorts. Stops are going to be up at that point. Now let me just write this up for you guys. This is our stop area up here. 62.92 will be fine. I've just remembered what I've got to do. I can do that in a minute. So we're at a short on the FTSE. And the short is at 62.62. 62 with a stop loss at 62.92. Okay, now let's see if it can come back and give us an opportunity. It may not, but let's see if we can get that again. So, Melbourne's locked down for 6 weeks. Goodness me. Oh yeah, do you know what? It's been tricky, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been tricky, Dennis, isn't it? You know, and it was tough. I was in. I had to. When did I get in yesterday with the FTSE? I can't remember what it was now. I think it was maybe somewhere around here. Yeah, it was around there. I closed it out down in this area because it was starting to look a bit weak, but I re-entered and I managed to get something back from my trade yesterday. But it was a really tricky old day yesterday. This might not end up giving me an opportunity to get in here. Hey LT, we got no Jeff at the minute. Jeff is visiting his mum at this moment because she's been taken ill. Now let me see if I'm joined in with Chloe.
Hey Ash.
Hey Chloe, you're there. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to change my name. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm just waiting to see if this FTSE will come back for me. Let me just change your name for you as well. There you go.
Oh, lovely.
No, you come up as Chloe. There you go. We are looking at a weak market this morning, Chloe.
We are indeed.
Oh, thank you, Helen. So there's a lockdown in Melbourne. Oh, I don't think we're going to get involved in this one. Looks like it's going to come down before we get taken in by the looks of things. I don't know. Actually, it might bounce here. It might still give us an opportunity. Maybe it comes up and the best area at this stage looks like it will be maybe along this this line here. So maybe a confluence area between the two trend lines would be the best. But that looks like it's traveling, doesn't it? It's kind of on its way already, so I'm not sure whether we're going to get our trade on, but we'll see. There might well be a bounce here just to get us involved. Let's have a quick look at the news and data for the day as well. Had a tough day in the end yesterday, Chloe. I was trying to trade this ISM number, and it came out just as an amazing number, and it just seemed like it's got to go higher from here, but market just didn't like it at all, and I suspect it's kind of giving us a bit of a snapshot into the fact that maybe good numbers actually prove to be bad because the central banks are less likely to continue their quantitative easing and their stimulus packages. So market didn't seem to like it at all. What do we got? RBA statement, the cash rate was left on hold in Australia. We got the 30-year bond auction. So that's, what do we got here? That doesn't look great. Foreign reserves, foreign reserves. Let's just check what they've got as well. Well, they're growing their foreign reserves in Switzerland, which suggests they're probably buying dollars, I would have thought. Nothing huge out today. So the market's really got a green light to move in a direction and probably stay in that direction unless there's going to be a jolt. So we are definitely looking for a short FTSE if we can get on board here, but I'm not sure whether we are going to get the opportunity. But let's see if we can get some sort of bounce just to help us out. Just a little bit. The market barometers look pretty damning, actually. Looks like 17% of stocks are in positive territory. Even though yesterday, I think we had around about I think we're about 17 down, and the market was unable to rally. So we are getting caught in this trap right now, and we did discuss this yesterday. These are our price points. I'm going to take these down now. 62.62 for an entry with a stop loss at 62.92 if we can get it. There looks like the range that we were discussing yesterday is still very much in play, and is not going to be breaking down just yet. So we are at the top end of the range. Now, this is suggesting that we could fall all the way back down to the bottom again. There's nothing really sinister going on, though, with the market. So I would suspect that anything to the downside may well actually provide a buying opportunity rather than a selling opportunity. So I'll watch out for that. But right now, it does look like the FTSE alongside some of the others. S&P futures just easing down as well, and we've also got some issues over in Germany, where I see that's also easing down. So quite a lot of them are just easing back. How's the Nasdaq going? Yeah, just easing down a little bit. Let's just check the Hang Seng, because the Hang Seng. Well, I would have thought that this, if there are problems with the global economy, I would have thought this one would have reacted the most significantly, just because the move to the upside has reacted the most significantly. So the Hang Seng does actually look like a potential opportunity there. Now Australia left their rates on hold. How did that affect them? A little bit of downside there. Nothing that significant. You looking at anything this morning, Chloe, or is it something that you want to see develop right now?
Well, pretty much the same as yesterday, Ash. The pairs that I'm mainly looking at are the Kiwi and the Aussie pairs.
Yeah.
And obviously Aussie's coming back off a bit from its steaming away yesterday. But I feel that it might be coming back too far for me to get in, to be honest. The Kiwi dollar still looks all right, so I'm still waiting to see if I can get a retest on that and then a chance to get in.
It's tricky now, isn't it? I mean, I looked at those ISM numbers yesterday, and I just thought, wow, that really should give the dollar a boost. Because they were just astonishingly good. 57.1, I think it was, which is shows a lot of expansion. So really, I think we should be looking at buying opportunities really with the global stocks as well, and I will look at that as the stock market eases down. If I miss the move to the downside, then I'll wait and see if there's an opportunity to buy this up, because those numbers look pretty good. But I thought the most significant aspect was the dollar, and we haven't got a dollar indexed chart up here, but just looking across the board, then little bit of weakness today with the dollar Swissy. But we did see a bit of a bounce towards the end of the day yesterday, and I wonder whether that might indicate a new wave to the upside with the US dollar. What's happening with the euro? Euro might have a level there. It might be there. There's a few possibilities with the level with the euro. Probably it does look like a retest, doesn't it? I mean, one number doesn't really change things, around that much. But with the number being such a good number, I wonder whether we are going to start to see just a bit more upside with the dollar. Pound isn't doing so well today. How's that pound euro doing that we were looking at yesterday? Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, is this still populating? This data looks wrong, doesn't it?
Looks like you've got a bit of a gap there. Let's have a look at mine.
Not sure what's happening there.
I think you just got a tiny bit of a gap for some reason.
Yeah, it seems to have a bit of a lag
Euro
here.
Pound, yeah.
Not sure what's going on
Don't know
there.
why that would be.
Data feed's not so good. FTSE is on the move. I'm not going to get that price, I don't think. There might still be an opportunity later. Going to have to wait and see whether the market can come back and and just test. It might still test that level towards the end of the day. The monthly pivot looks like an obvious charge point now, so maybe coming down to the monthly pivot might give us some upside, but that's got to jump up 50 pips just to get us in now. So I'm not sure whether it's going to happen or not.
What strikes me with this trade, Ash,
Yeah,
is I mean it's more a psychology thing than anything else, but I think if you were a beginner trader, you would have probably looked at that level, I assume, and seen price steaming down from it and thinking, shit, I've missed it, let me jump in now. Whereas I think what's really, really important for the people watching is that Ash has chosen his level and he's placed an order there, and there is a chance that price might go down and not come back to his level and therefore not enter him in, and he'll miss the trade. And he's okay with that, because picking the level and being certain about that's where I want to trade, that's the only place I want to trade, is the most important thing. Chasing a trade is not important at all. So having the idea of the level in your mind and then waiting for price to come back is a really hard thing to do when you see the market moving as it is. It's a bit the same as yesterday, Ash. What happened yesterday? It was so strong, the market.
yeah.
But it's just about being patient, because it's not about just snatching a little bit of money from the market on this one trade. It's about having a system in place that works over the long term and not chasing the market. So
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? It's over the long term, I know that these levels ultimately will get tested, or I might have to get in a little bit lower than this in the end. But you're absolutely right. As the market starts to move, the temptation is that we just dive in because it looks like it's going, but because it would then not match the really the setup, it moving like that is not really of any use. And also on top of that, I don't hear enough to suggest the market's going to tank without coming back at some point. If there was a big wave of panic going on because there was another huge outbreak that might well affect the global economy, then I might have a different view on it. But I wonder whether people are starting to ease back positions because of earnings season, which suggests to me that at some point it's going to come back. And the chances are as well, it might not come back here. But what I will look for if that doesn't happen is something that might still do this. Might just close down there, might go another one, but then come back and then come back. And then on this one here, in fact, maybe it would need to come back just a little bit further, but eventually it would probably come back and give me something that would be just something I can enter on. And it might even be that I'm entering down here. So I might end up, at the same sort of price, but at least I have a dip and a coming back that I can actually trade. I can't trade these, but you're absolutely right. Trading just because the market is moving ends up being pretty costly on the whole. So I won't be doing that. And to be quite honest as well, as I was trying to get in this morning, I was doing something else. I was actually sort of like doing some calculations on the Nasdaq and the DAX as well this morning, trying to figure out which would be the best to trade. And I wasn't really prepared for the open, so it's another reason I'm not willing to chase it, because the chances are I'm just not I'm not set yet. So leaving this order in the market just allows me to get set and get ready for the day. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think you have to kind of recognize exactly where you are in your in your core. Are you slightly off balance? And I do feel a little bit off balance with this. I wasn't able to get the Zoom open in time as well. I had a bit of a problem with the internet this morning as well. So it's just kind of like putting me slightly off kilter. And I recognize it. I'm just sort of like thinking, well, as you say, there's enough opportunities out there not to have to chase. So I won't go chasing this one. I will wait and see if I can get the entry that I want. Just that little bit more detail. And if it doesn't happen here, it will happen at some point. And also, there's probably a buying opportunity. This probably does create a buying opportunity as much as anything else. Yes, John, you're absolutely right. It is like negotiating. You only want to buy and sell that that price. So yeah, you'll wait for it. Exactly, mate. Exactly that. And it is bad practice to chase trades. And don't get me wrong, I have done it in the past, and every now and again I will still you kind of fall into that trap. But you know, when I've got my head in the right place, and that's the most important thing. You've got to kind of like get your head in the right place. And if your head in the right place is in the right place, then you should be fine. Now the pound euro pound, sorry. Let's just have a quick look at that, because that one. What's somebody saying there? So we've got someone I'll watch this, aren't we, Chloe? Haven't we, Chloe? We're waiting for. We're waiting for some to come into play. I'm just reading back some of the questions. Chandru saying hello. RBA was fine. Read the report on that. CCP says US weaponizing the dollar with possible cut off of SWIFT payments. Yeah, I mean, all that kind of stuff is really something that we need to be aware of as well in the background, because if there is something to drive this market down, it will probably be a falling out of nations. So we got to stay on top of that stuff as well. Yesterday was very bullish in the US and not the UK. Was it bullish though? I mean, I looked at the US stocks and they didn't break out. You know, they seem pretty. I mean, I suppose you could say that you know, that this one started up, but that was off. That was China. That was the Asian session. So actually, when the US session came on, we were here. Didn't really go very far. You know, it wasn't. I didn't think it was particularly bullish. Unless you're talking about the Nasdaq, of course. I don't know, Chloe, if you watch any stocks, but have you seen Tesla? It is astonishing what has happened to Tesla.
I haven't looked actually.
Oh, you know what? I might have to show you. It's just crazy. And Mario, that some of these guys know, who was in the show. In the US show, talking about the cryptos, he loves Tesla. He's a big Tesla fan. He's been on at me for ages about it, and I have subsequent. You know, I've ignored it, and you know, he's just proved to be right on the money. I just don't know enough about it really. But let me show you this. Where are we going? Stop that. Okay, this is Tesla. This is a chart of Tesla on a weekly. Oh, well, it does that every time. Yeah, this is the chart of Tesla. So it's currently up at 1371. So $1,371 buys a. Is that right, or is it 100? Yeah, I think that is right. $1,371 buys one stock of Tesla. This is the astonishing thing for me. This was the global pandemic, and that was the buying opportunity with Tesla. This is a weekly chart. So, you know, some of those other stocks have gone up. I don't know. Some have continued to struggle, but some stocks have actually gone up, you know, quite substantially. I looked at Ocado, and Ocado's up 100%, but Tesla's nearly up 200%. You know, from that dip down. In actual fact, if you took it from the low at 354, it is up 200% in the. In fact, more than that. More than that, actually. It's up more than well, let's say triple. The price has tripled in the course of 3 months, 4 months with Tesla. It's just astonishing, you know, the stuff that goes on with some of these tech stocks, and if you pick them right, then you're well away. But I remember looking at Tesla as it was doing this and just thinking, those prices are just crazy, you know. It's up near $900 for a share. It dips down to 350, and then bang, look at it now, 1371, and it looks like Tesla actually managed to meet some analyst estimates as well on profit. I think they had some orders that went out, and they got paid up on them. So, Elon Musk continues to show what a clever guy he is,
He
and
certainly
Tesla.
is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you know what worries me a bit about trading Tesla is I feel a bit like Elon Musk is a bit like Trump in that he can just come out completely unpredicted one day and say one little thing, and that will massively affect that stock price.
yeah,
He's one of those that he's got his opinion on Twitter and he's pretty vocal on there and stuff, and that's what worries me about
yeah.
trading Tesla. That's why to be honest with you, don't really look at it that much. But looking at a chart like that, I think, oh damn it, I wish I had.
Well, do you know, I completely agree with you on that because, yeah, it is all about Elon Musk, isn't it, Tesla? I mean, and that's one of the worries that Mario is always saying to me about as well, is that because it's so dependent on one man, what happens to it if something happened to Elon Musk? If he gets taken out or he gets, decides he's done with it. But then it might be the same sort of thing as Apple, where you kind of have Steve Jobs and everything's just all about Steve Jobs, but the transition to the next person that actually was okay, wasn't really a problem at all. In fact, Apple's probably done even better since Tim Cook's come into play. So it is like a crypto chart, Shukri. You're absolutely right. And the way that Mario trades these things is probably the best approach. But yeah, just mad. You sort of you see things like that, and I think there are things out there that are obviously going to be explosive. The crypto story still concerns me a little bit because I think too many people now know about it. And I'm not sure whether it's going to go in the same way that it did the last time round. Because I think that people are wised up, and when it comes down to some of these other bits and pieces, are people still behind the curve? Are they behind the curve on marijuana stocks and vegan food stocks? They're not behind the curve on Tesla and Amazon, that's for sure. But yeah, some of these moves have just been crazy, and they continue to probably move higher. But Tesla's going to be extremely volatile. There's no doubt about it. It's probably going to come down quite significantly. As Shukri says, just like the cryptos too. But it looks like it will always recover right now. Well, the FTSE is gone. I think global stocks are significantly weaker today, and they are easing to the downside. Shame we missed that opportunity, but that is the way it is. Now, the question is there an opportunity to pick it up long as it comes back down here? But the issue now becomes with such a committed move down, this doesn't become a buying opportunity in this particular session. We might be looking at a long in the US session. I don't know, but in this session, it's no good. So we are having to sit back and just allow this one to go, which is a shame. But have we got anything else, Chloe? Anything else we would look at here? We got Ethereum takes the lead and sets the course for a new yearly high. XRP could classify it as an investment class, which would add value to Ripple's businesses. Yeah, I agree with you, Helen. I don't know enough about them. I've got to be honest, and I'm still frustrated that I got taken out of Cardano. That would have been a cracking trade. That's up at 10 cents now, and I was in at 80. So that's a real frustrating one for me. But I don't know enough about them to have an informed opinion. You guys know a lot more about this crypto space than I do. It does concern me that a lot of people are getting educated on it, and it might be that expectations for the crypto markets should probably be paired somewhat. I think that there's no doubt that they can probably outperform the traditional asset classes, but whether we're likely to see 20,000, I mean, I suppose we could see 20,000 from Bitcoin, but it not be such a huge story because it hasn't just come from $1 effectively. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And you've got all the governments as well jumping on the crypto space. So there does seem to be a few actors out there which might actually make it so if you can pick the right one, you're going to make a lot of money, but probably a lot of them are going to be put in the bin, I would have thought. So yeah, so currencies, Chloe. Anything we could look at today, or is it
Yeah,
really that we're
let me grab the screen, and I'm looking at a few things. Now, obviously the Aussie pairs, I have been bullish on those for quite some time, but as of today, obviously we've had the news of the lockdown in Melbourne, which um it's still not as bad as what we've got over here, quite frankly. They've still got very low incidence of the virus, but it is what it is, and the markets get affected by what they hear. So for now, I'm holding off on the intraday trading on the Aussie pairs, but I'm still interested in the Kiwi pairs, to be honest with you. And I just thought I'd have a quick look at some of these Kiwi pairs. So I've got the daily charts up here, and really all I'm waiting for is a retracement so that I can get in with cyclicity. And to be honest with you, I don't mind exactly where the retracement comes to. If it comes to this weekly pivot up here, then it's likely to be a lower time frame that I'm looking at entering, but it could retrace further, come to a moving average here, and then I'll be looking for an entry. It's obviously we had that breakout on euro dollar yesterday, which had an impact on obviously the euro crosses as well. And euro dollar, I'm not 100% convinced by this breakout long, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's been a tricky one, hasn't it? Do you know, I've got to be honest, Chloe. One of the other reasons that I'm quite keen to wait for my level on the FTSE is that we've been really choppy, and the market hasn't really gone anywhere, hasn't it? Half of me this morning just thought I might not bother with the markets for a little while until they actually break out significantly to give us an opportunity, because they just seem to be kind of flipping back and forward in ranges and quite tricky ranges as well, because that's not even at the top of the range, is it? Or it is at the top of a range, but it's not at the top of the high.
Yeah, it's at a horizontal level, but it's as you say, it's not reached this previous high. But the fact that for me, it's all about highs and lows, and the fact that this breakout, the candle now has a long tail, and it didn't manage to take out this previous high over here. So to me, this price action at the moment is pretty much the same as the price action we saw three weeks ago, or whenever that was. So it's not a convincing breakout for me. Yes, I can go down to the lower time frames and see if there is a retest. So what I would be doing here would probably be to have a look for a retest in around about this area and see if that area gave me any confluence. But at the same time, I also don't want a retest where I've got a strong bearish move before then taking a trade long. So I'm just not convinced here. I'm not convinced that we're through all of this resistance. We can pretty clearly see that there is resistance over here as well. So I'm just not convinced by this move on euro dollar, to be honest with you. And therefore, I can't really use it to guide any direction on anything else. And exactly what you just said, Ash, I remember having this exact same conversation with Paul. It was probably about a month or so ago on the Sunday show, where what we're seeing, we do sometimes see trends break out and run, but definitely a lot less than I would say in a normal market, as in pre-COVID market. And what I'm seeing a lot more of is price breaking out, and there might be an opportunity here and there, which personally my take on it is I tend to go for much more conservative targets than I would otherwise. With the way I trade on Income Creator, I'm looking for big targets. You know, it can be quite common to see a 5-to-1 or a 7-to-1 or a 10-to-1 trade when you get a trade with the trend. And I'm just not really seeing that at the moment. Even the really good trades on Aussie Kiwi Aussie pairs and Kiwi pairs, they haven't you know, they've yielded some profit, but they certainly haven't yielded me anything like what I would usually hope for in an Income Creator trade. And I'm seeing that with the Aussie. You know, I'm in a couple of trades on the Aussie, and I've taken some profit from them, so they're not going to be failed trades, but they're certainly not going to go on for as long as I would have maybe hoped for. So I think that is my message, is yes, there might be opportunities here and on some of the other currency pairs, but I'd definitely be setting at least my TP1 a lot closer than I would usually. And I think that's where the Wave Rider strategy really comes into its own, because the Wave Rider strategy does set a closer take profit one than the Income Creator. So when I get a good trend and it runs, I get more profit. But I have to actually use my discretion to decide whether or not to come out of that trade or scale out of that trade early. Whereas the Wave Rider strategy, you're already scaling out pretty early at the next weekly resistance level. So probably should be okay. But it's just worth bearing in mind that these trends are, you know, sometimes they go on as you would expect, and sometimes they just don't. I've actually got an order on pound CAD at the moment, and it is it's basically a range bound currency pair at the moment, so it's very, very unusual for me to trade that. But I have been and still am fairly bearish on the pound. And basically for me, because price is above both of these pivots, if it now breaks convincingly back below the monthly pivot and below the weekly pivot and below this area here of support, then I'm going to be looking for a move to the downside. So that's something I'm looking out for. But, you know, it may or may not happen. If it breaks to the upside, obviously, absolutely fine. I'll just completely delete the order. So really, the only things that I see potential on for intraday trading today for me are the Kiwi pairs and maybe gold. Gold is, I think, always worth keeping an eye on in markets like this. It is still looking bullish. And the thing with gold at the moment, it's moving a little bit differently to what I would usually like for my trend trading, because what I'm tending to see is, let me just get the pen up here.
Ainsley's a big fan. Ainsley's
big
waiting
fan,
for 1800 before considering to do anything with gold. I think it's just
yeah.
it's a bit it's stuck there a little bit, isn't it? But
It is a bit stuck. But this is one thing that we tend to see with gold. It makes a new high, then it comes back and makes a lower high, and then it pops out. Same with here. It's then made, how do I move this thing out of the way? Then made a new high. It's come back down, made a lower high, and then pops up. So the fact that this here is a lower high from this doesn't actually concern me too much, because I think that quite possibly by the time this is retraced to an area I want to trade, whether it's a moving average, whether it's a weekly pivot or something is going to happen in the news or in the markets whereby that is going to potentially lead to another pop up in gold. Not saying definitely, obviously I've still got to wait for my setup, but where I'm normally pretty religious about making sure I'm looking for a series of higher lows and higher highs, with gold at the moment I'm not placing too much importance on these kind of smaller, kind of in-betweeny lower highs, because at least I am still seeing an overall upward trend. So that's something that I will still look out for my long setups on. It's most likely that I'm going to want it to retrace at least to the weekly pivot here, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not ruling out long trades on gold. But apart from that, it's the Kiwi pairs, and I've just got to wait and see if any of these retrace to a point where I can get in. Kiwi CAD I really like on the daily time frame because of this horizontal level. I'd love to see price retrace down to here over the next few days and then see if there's a long opportunity at that point. And at that point, whether I take a trade on the daily or whether I do go down to the lower timeframes to try and get a higher reward to risk opportunity remains to be seen. And that's the other thing, Ash, is what I might expect out of this move, bearing in mind that the Kiwi has been on a run for a while now, you know, basically since mid-March, it's been going up. So at some point, this trend is going to have a pullback. So I'm not necessarily looking for any long trades here to go on forever. What I would be looking for would be perhaps if I were to trade on a daily time frame, a retracement to around this level, and then a pop up, and probably wanting to take some profit at this previous high, just to make sure that I've got myself covered in case price does turn around and have a bigger correction. Whereas if I were to look at this level and then try and find some way of getting in on a lower time frame, trading it up to there could still be a 10-to-1 reward to risk. If I get in on a lower time frame with a tighter stop, etc. So just because the market isn't moving as I would like it to doesn't mean there aren't opportunities there, but I am being ultra cautious about my expectations when things do pop out in one direction or another. I think I spoke about Kiwi Swiss as well. That's popped out and I'm just waiting for that to come back, and perhaps you know, perhaps I might get a test at some point around here. I quite like this level here. But again, I've had a test of that level and it's gone. It's not gone very far and now it's coming back. So I'm not seeing anything that I particularly love in terms of price action. Kiwi yen as well, that's popped out, looking good for perhaps a bit more upside. This one I would like to see return to the weekly pivot, because that's my area of confluence there. Weekly pivot, this level, which was resistance, I'd like to see a proper retest of that, and then maybe I might consider getting into that. And of course, I've got Kiwi dollar, which I'm, you know, probably this is going to hit my stop, which I mean, my stop is well above where I got in, so it's still a pretty good profit on that trade. If it does hit my stop, then again, I'm likely to wait for a bigger retracement now before I get in. But again, I've got a bit of an area of confluence here. I do have some resistance up here, which could become support, and perhaps there might be a trading opportunity here. The thing I don't like doing is trading directly into strong, I don't like trading long into strong bearish price action. So something would have to change here before I'm convinced to get into this market long again. And again, my absolute preference is to try and get in as close to the beginning of the move, which the beginning of the move was down here. The move's gone. I'm taking some profit out of that. If I get in here, it's a lower probability and lower reward to risk trade. So I have to be aware of that before I get into any trades. And I have to be okay with that. And if I'm not okay with that, then I'm simply not going to trade. We've also got this resistance up here. So we've pretty much hit that and come off it. My feeling is that it's time to perhaps give this a break before looking to get in again. So after a really strong start to the week with a lot of strong moves, it looks like it might be a little bit quieter for me, Ash, over the next couple of days, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Okay, am I on here? Yep, sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I actually was going to ask you about that because obviously you're looking on different time frames, and that does mean that things do get quiet for a while, don't they? And you just have to kind of wait until the market conditions are right. And this is really what I was talking about. The market conditions right now are just a bit tricky to actually get anything to go and stay gone. It's just it just seems that we are kind of caught in these ranges, and trading the top of the ranges to the bottom of the ranges seems to be the best course of action. But to try and get anything in regards to a trend is just quite tricky, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Euro dollar got rejected near Jeff's 1 point. There you go. You see, Jeff knows what he's doing. What are the fundamental market conditions that cause trending pairs to disappear, and what conditions would bring them back? I mean, that's just it's a huge conversation in itself. There are many fundamental drivers, Sino. I mean, if you think about what drives the currency market, there are so many different players that are involved in what drives the currency market that you have to really break down. Each player and what their specific reason would be for wanting to buy. I mean, the most simple kind of reason that we know that people would buy currencies is because a country is no different to a company, and if a country sells goods and services, then for another country to purchase their goods and services, they have to exchange their currency into the uh, the um, the country of production's currency to purchase those goods and services. Like then you break down, is it an exporting country or an importing country? An exporting country may well see a lot more business at a specific time, but then there are instruments that are used and utilized to make sure that there is a rebalancing of currencies, and this is where currency manipulation comes in. So on the face of it, the fundamental reasons that a currency should move aren't necessarily what's going on. There's money supply issues. There are central banks that get involved. There's hedge funds. There's pensions. There's retail banks. They're all kind of like players within this huge machine that kind of makes one currency move against another. But what it will on the basic front of it, it's about confidence of a country. And this is why I've been quite bearish on the pound. But I have to say, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, is continuously announcing new measures to get the country into an area of growth. I mean, that they've been really positive. The rhetoric out of the UK is incredibly positive, and I guess they have to be that way. More to do with Brexit than to do with COVID. But there's going to be a point where the pound will actually become quite an if they manage. They're very good at rhetoric, and this is why we have to be very careful. This government is extremely good at saying what people want to hear. But there's going to be a point where you start to think, well, actually, the pound or the UK economy could start to pick up from this particular position. Now, if you've got a country that has seen much of the growth over the last few months to a few quarters to a few years, then are they as likely to have the move, in their economy, the same kind of boom? And the UK looks like it is, from the rhetoric that's coming out, they're really looking for a bit of a boom time, and that's going to put some confidence back in the pound. At least the planned expected news you can deal with, but the stuff left out of left field, like Navarro and Haldane and tweeting. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, those are tweets, and some of these other players are knee-jerk moves. And if you're talking about if you're talking about what conditions would bring them back, it's those conditions. They're the conditions that kind of bring us back to to a place that we can trade them again, because the underlying fundamentals are what drive a market ultimately. And we've just been let's take the screen here. We've just been talking about the pound. This is one of the reasons I quite like the euro pound for some downside. We'd want to see the euro start to weaken, but is the pound about to hit a fairly decent run of positivity, because speculators now start to think actually there's enough investment going into that country to give it some growth? And if there's growth in a country, then there's going to be investment in that country. And if there's investment in that country, we go back again to foreign players wanting to exchange their currency into the UK and purchase some of the investments that are going on. So that's the kind of thing that could drive the pound. So this is why, firstly, you want to watch the idea. You want to listen out for the idea. What ideas have governments got to try and boost their economy, to get their economy moving again? After that, you've got to ascertain, are people confident that that's going to happen? And if they are, if there is some movement in that country and they are genuinely starting to have a big program of rebuilding, then that will likely start to move the currency in a positive direction. So on the face of it, that's the kind of that's the simple reason that a currency can move, and it's about speculation of confidence about an economy. Under the hood, there's more kind of going on, that we need to break down after we have that. But the first thing you want to do in any trading environment is have an idea of what is likely to happen next. What could drive something. And if the idea that we have is that the pound could actually start to strengthen over the course of the next 3 to 6 months to the next 4 years, or 3 years, whatever the term of the government has still got, then will we see some of those really big players? Because, contrary to belief, hedge funds and corporate banks do not sit at their trading desks all day buying and selling. They just don't do that. That they make a judgment call on a currency over a long period of time, minimum of a quarter. So if we start to hear, more positive things from the pound, then really we'd want to start to think, well, maybe the pound could strengthen. And then it's just a case of thinking about, who could it strengthen against and why? If you don't hear that there's, I quite like the Aussie. I think the Aussie's on fairly good footing. However, an outbreak in Melbourne does not help it. So we could start to look at the Australian dollar as a potential opportunity against the pound. And if we look at the pound against the Aussie, and this is just on ideas, but there's no setup here. But if we're just looking at an idea generation, if you like, then where is it? Where is it technically speaking? And it looks like it's in a buy zone, or very close to. I think that there could be, and we'd have to draw some trend lines just to kind of make sure it hasn't gone through some levels. Yep, certainly an argument that could be problematic there. And another one there. So this one is probably the one that I would look for, not that one. I'd look at this one. Does this suggest that actually the pound has broken further? Could it break further down? Technically speaking, yes, it does. So what would I want to see before I was trading the pound? Well, I'd want to see it above this price point, that we've seen over the last month. So the pound breaks above 1.80748 against the Aussie dollar, then that might be enough to start to bring the buyers back into the market. Now, all we've got is some whispers from the UK, but it seems to me like they are doing everything they possibly can to get the UK economy back on track, and they are extremely motivated right now. There's a price point there as well that we're going to have to be very careful of. So there's confluence there. Now, where does that lead us? It does lead us pretty much the same thing. So we're looking at a break of the weekly high right now. And then if we start to mine in, then the last trend looks like it's somewhere along here. That looks to me like the pattern we have with the UK, with the pound against the Aussie, and it is a falling wedge. So the falling wedge does have bullish connotation. So I wouldn't just want to trade this. I'd want to make sure that there is a setup. But if there is something that comes, if there is continued prospect of rebuilding in the UK, then there is likely to be some investment into the UK, and I think the prospect is the first thing, and it doesn't look like the charts are necessarily moving on that Rishi Sunak statement. This might be purely Aussie driven. I don't know, because we haven't seen the pound move significantly against the euro, but it does seem to me that with a pound in a buy zone against quite a few of these, all we really need is a fundamental driver. And that fundamental driver, yes, does come from understanding, things like monetary supply and central bank policy. But it really does come down as well to government policy and knowing what government policy is. And government policy in the UK, I can tell you, is really about expansion from what they are saying. So we need to see some evidence that the investment is going to come in from the government, and if that was to happen, then we would likely see some upside with the pound. So the pound is starting to be a bit more attractive from my perspective. You got anything to add to that, Chloe? Any fundamental drivers that you kind of look at when you're looking to trade, or do you trade purely technically, which is really Jeff's approach?
I mainly trade purely technically, Ash. If I'm trading currencies, it's pretty much all technical. I do get my biases from various other places. So, for example, I've been bullish on the Aussie and Kiwi recently simply because they're doing better than a lot of the rest of the world in terms of their getting a handle on the coronavirus pandemic. And I think that has an effect on the markets fundamentally, and I think it has an effect on people's opinions of the markets. And essentially a market is just about trading people's opinions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yes, I do take some fundamentals into consideration. I also look at seasonality quite a lot, but essentially all of my setups are technical.
So on that, if the one of the reasons that you were bullish on the Kiwi and the Aussie, due to the fact that they handled the coronavirus, probably a lot more efficiently than many other countries have done, and we hear about an outbreak, does that mean that we should be looking, or that you would be looking probably more, not necessarily to the downside? I know this is still an uptrend, but would the uptrend now be a little bit less? Would you be less confident about trading this now to the upside because your initial, one of your reasons for being confident was because of the successful handling of coronavirus, and now we do have outbreaks being reported that maybe the Aussie it no longer falls into that category?
Yeah, it definitely has an effect, Ash. I mean, essentially what I'm looking at in this market is a series of higher highs and higher lows. As soon as I get my first lower high, that's an indication that something's not quite right. So actually, as of last month, we were starting to see a bit of a slowing down. What I was looking for was a breakout of that kind of consolidation that we saw for pretty much most of June. And we did get that breakout, but it hasn't gone very far before now. Today we've got a bearish day so far, and we've got this kind of news out of Australia about the continued lockdown, or the new lockdown in Melbourne. So it's a combination of things. I will still trade technically, and if price comes down from this point and gives a clear higher low and a clear buy signal, then I probably will still take that, probably at reduced risk, but I probably will still take that, because officially I do still have higher lows and I do still just about have higher highs. But I'm definitely less convinced, because this most recent higher high, it hasn't come on a lot further than the previous one. And I really would have liked to have seen price push on and either at least meet that kind of larger previous high from from the beginning of June, or push through there. And it
It's
hasn't
another one
done that
in a
yet.
really
So
really difficult range, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
it
another one that we have trapped, and it's difficult really. And Jeff and I have this issue sometimes, is that we're obviously here to trade. But the truth is, these particular periods in the market, Jeff's a bit different actually. He loves a range, but for me, these particular periods in the market just become just tough, tiring actually. It's been really tiring, sort of like trying to pick out, correct trades here. You look how simple it is here. Just nice like moves to the upside. You're trading this, you're trading this, you're trading this, and that's just a really, and we've had that actually recently. Quite a lot on this this Aussie, but down, 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 down. There it goes. But these kind of ranges that we find ourselves in, they just become, as I say, just really, really tiring and just not simple to trade. This is another one. It's not too bad, but not as bad. Probably in this area here. This area here, just a really, really, really tricky range to play. It still poked its head above and then started to come back down again. But and then you could probably broaden out the range. But these ranges are just tough. I find them really tiring. When the market just kind of hits a range, it was a lot easier when this one actually broke out. Now this range, even if we take this a little bit wider. I can grab this. Yep, there it is. Let me take this a little bit wider and have a look along here. Look at that when it breaks out. As soon as it breaks out of the range, then it goes. And it goes a long, long way. So I've kind of got a similar kind of like feeling right now, and the thing is, trading inside the range is absolutely fine, but it is really unnecessary. And I'd be more than happy to leave this market alone and just come back when it's broken out. Because they are difficult. There was no range here as it comes back up. Decent move to the downside, really nice trend to the upside. And if we think about market structure and market psychology, when there is volatility, the market's easier to make money. So when we see this here, this was our breakout point that we just indicated, and then it came down. Even if you missed that, when it starts to come up, because the volatility is picked up to here, you can see that this is a motive. So as soon as you see a motion kind of hit the market, then you know that there is likely to be a motion in the opposite direction. And this is what we got. We got really nice emotive moves all the way back to this point, but there is just no decision making in here. And we are in the time of the year when that is really prevalent. So I would be much, much happier if I got that or that. With picking trades that I could actually confidently trade and stay in, because ranges are tough. Because as you say, Chloe, really what you have in some respects is this a start of a trend? And that's what we had over here. Let's get rid of that line. That's what we had over here. We had a range, pretty wide, because for every range there is a trend, and for every trend there is a range, depending on the time frame. But within this range here, we had some trends. We had this going on, and then this. So there are trends within the ranges, but you just don't know if you're going to get this going on that doesn't go up to this point and it comes down instead, or whether you're going to get an actual sort of like genuine move to the upside. It's really tricky to ascertain. But when they break out like it did here, it really did break out and go. So I'm just not loving the environment right now. I think that this is tough and it is tiring. to have to sit and try and trade these. And now that doesn't mean that you don't trade. It just means that you have to pick the right time frame, because as I said, for every trend for every range there's a trend, and for every trend there's a range. So if we think about this as a range, and this is where it becomes, you know, really tough for new traders. You look at this. If you are trading daily time frames, get your box drawn. Get your box drawn here. And understand that if you are trading a daily strategy, this is not an environment or an area that you should get involved. But what you can do is go down 4 hour. You can move. You can go down to the 4 hour and see if you can get a trend on the 4 hour. Can you get a trend on the hourly? You know, I wouldn't want to go too much less than that. But when you look at this on the hourly, you can see that there is, you know, you can start to look at this range. Get yourself in a buy zone. It starts to trend to the upside, and it has still that would still be just about going. But you know, and again, is this a buy zone? It's at the lower end. It's near the lower end, so you can start looking to the upside again. But you have to understand really, you know, what is the picture. And the big picture is always going to come from the wider time frame. I'm sure if we looked back at this position again over here, when we see this trend, if we flip this out to a weekly chart or a monthly chart, then we see that this was a range, and actually very difficult to trade if you were a monthly trader. Look, same sort of thing, just not moving, just these little bounds here. This is on a weekly. No trend there either, really. You know, you could maybe argue there's a higher high there, but then it just starts to come right back down again. So recognizing what phase we're in is quite key to your success. And you know, we can go right the way through these and decide. You have to decide for yourself: are they in a range or are they in a trend? This one, range. This one, range. Another range. There's a bit of volatility here. Now this one looks pretty good for a potential for something to happen. It breaks out of that point to the downside, then you're good to go for a trade. Otherwise, now with the Aussie Kiwi, you're really looking for opportunities long on shorter term timeframes. But you can see how hard they are. You know, it goes up for a little bit and then comes back down again. But this, you know, that's another one that's caught in a range. And I'm pretty sure if we went right the way through, another range. That's just horrible. CAD yen's a bit weird as well. I mean, it is in a range, and it's in a range with this big spike up here. Another range. Another range. Another range. I mean, that one's really bad. Another range, you know. But so really, I would like to see some of these just kick out, you know, kick out and give us an actual breakout. And this is some of the reasons, some of the problem I found with the FTSE. It is just caught right now at these points. So really, we should be looking for downside to the FTSE to see, you know, see if it'll get back to that, down to the bottom of the range. But missing that that initial one is not really a big deal, because it comes back down here, and really we're looking long again. But you know, I don't know if you've kind of thought the same thing, Chloe, but I am finding this market just a lot harder than we've had recently, because the moves, you know, because of the big move down, inevitably we get a reaction. Now we've just settled into this this really difficult period where you know, it's difficult to pick a direction because there isn't a direction. And I guess it's back to really what Shukri is looking at with cryptos. Probably a lot easier to trade, even though I don't know if you've you know, thought the same thing, Shukri. But I've noticed the Bitcoin is really kind of caught in a range as well right now. It's really rangy and just not a very nice one to trade. Which was really the point I was making about are people starting to, you know, are they wised up to it enough to stop trading the likes of Bitcoin? Because or stop speculating in the same way on something like Bitcoin, because it seems to be caught in the same problems now. It seems to have settled into the same thing that that we've had with stocks. Gotcha, mate. Yes. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So the alternatives are flying, and I'm sure if we were looking at some miners in some of these currencies, then we'd find the same thing, because we need volatility, and there's just none. There is just none, and it makes it tough to make money on a buy and hold or sell and hold kind of strategy right now. So you're really in and out. That's the only way to do it, really. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there, Chloe. I think we've probably talked enough about probably a bit of safety. Yeah, we need it. We need it. We need some volatility. Nothing is here right now. So yeah, I'm not too keen on the market too much right now. It would have been quite nice just to be honest, with the FTSE, I'd be out now. I wouldn't even be kind of holding on. I'll be closing this position, because it's got just as much chance of popping up again that it has of coming down again, to continuing down, because there's no volatility. It's almost like I'm almost tempted to buy this. I'm not going to buy it, but it's one of those that I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it's all the way back up here again at some point by the end of the day. Right. Anyway, we'll wrap it up, Chloe. Thanks so much again for
no worries,
in.
Ash. Yeah, and completely agree with you on all of those ranges. It is, for me, I feel like it's a little bit like treading water at the moment. I'm grabbing trades if I see something I really like the look of, and not assuming that they're going to go a million miles, because, as you say, we are still in these ranges. But the key is patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially on the Aussie pairs and Kiwi pairs, I find one of the things I use a lot on them is seasonality. And there have been times where I've been waiting 4 months for a trade.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
when that trade has gone, that's pretty much set me up for the year. So
yeah.
Jeez,
that's the thing, isn't it, Chloe? I mean, that's where it becomes tough. You get really patient, you wait, and then you miss it. I mean, that's
you can't miss those ones. You gotta be if you're waiting for something for 3 months, then you've gotta keep an eye on that. Those are the kinds of things that I will stay up all night for.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if you're in bed, Chloe? You know how much you like your bed.
I know, yeah, I
sleep
know.
through it.
I don't know, but I will say towards the I think probably around 3rd week of July, so maybe a bit before then, I'll start looking out. But I'm looking for a move on Aussie dollar.
Yeah.
So I've just basically, not necessarily expecting or anticipating anything to happen until then.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm sitting and watching and waiting, ready for that, then it should be all right. So yeah, patience is key.
Yes, patience is the key. Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah, it's not easy to be patient when you're looking at the charts, all the time, because you just want a trade. It's we know that's how we make money, but we have to remember that's also how we lose money. So we've got to just sit and wait and be in the long reads, waiting for our prey to pass, so we can actually successfully dive on it. But yeah, so I think for right now, everybody should understand the condition. That's the job that you that I would set for all of you. Understand the condition that the market's in. I can't really emphasize enough. These particular environments are traditionally, maybe tradition is the wrong word. Historically, they're the ones that have really done me over. Now, I know how to handle them better now, so it's not really a problem. I can still make money in this period. But I know when I was kind of like, when I didn't really understand why wasn't the market moving, what's going on here, I was entering trades, kind of leaving them overnight, and then, coming back. In fact, somebody made the point earlier on, I think it was you, was it, Dennis, that you came back up and now you're 20 pips down or whatever, or 2% down. That's the thing. We have to recognize, if we are in ranges, get our profit out early. It doesn't matter if it breaks out. Really, I mean, because I've tried to stay in a trade and see if it would go, and it just hasn't. And I think we have to kind of like, let's just take what the market has on offer, which basically is these choppy ranges that we can trade. But let's get our profits. Let's get our profit quickly, and just take what little bits are on offer. 2% up to 2% down over breakfast. Yeah, it's hideous, isn't it, mate? Horrible, horrible. But the market is not providing right now. So right now I think it's time to play golf, go to the pub, do something else, or actually just educate. That's also there's so much to learn, and there's so many things going on. And actually, there will be a market out there which is good to trade. As Shukri says, that some of those smaller cryptocurrencies, that the alternatives are flying. So breakfast. I know. Do you know what, Dennis? One thing that is really important, and you probably know this already, is really swallow that feeling in your gut and turn your system off. Because if you swallow that feeling and you keep in front of your charts, you've got a higher probability of making a mistake. Because there's nothing worse than trading when you have frustration. Nothing worse. And the market will give you the opportunity to get that money back. This is why I quite like losing on a Friday if I'm going to lose in a week, because I've got the weekend to get my head back together. But that's good. That's a good learning thing. That's a really Dennis is saying the first time he's been negative in money terms since starting. It's a good thing. It will, that you're going to have many more. So the thing to get your head around now is how you're going to handle it. Because if you handle this one well, you handle the next one well. Put the good process in straight away. And my advice would be, don't trade. Market will be there. Don't go looking for that money back, because the market is not giving today. It's not providing right now. So yeah, figure out how you're going to get over this. This is where your psychology starts to build, and it will make you a much better trader. So losing is not a problem. It's how you handle it is the key. Right, we'll wrap it there. Chloe, are you in tomorrow morning, Chloe, or is this a bit too much to ask?
Okay, well, I won't say I'm enjoying the early mornings, but
Yeah.
people must think I'm mad. People must think, what do you mean early morning? It's 8 a.m. It's not early, but it is early for me, believe me.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
I've got
Okay,
plenty of things that I can be getting on with now with my day that I wouldn't have without the early morning. So
yeah, appreciate being up.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, guys.
We'll speak tomorrow then.
Thanks very much, Chloe. We'll see you tomorrow. See the rest of you tomorrow as well. At 5 to 8. I'll do Jeff's bit. You'll get used to it, Chloe. Don't be late.
Well, yeah, can't promise that.
Not you, by the way. That's just something that Jeff says. Don't be late. Yeah, because it rhymes with 5 to 8. Right. Yeah. See you later, guys.
See ya.